Okay, so in this video I'm just going to show you how to draw a quick title block. So again, I have the page on my drawing board. Again, if you don't have a drawing board, just use your table. And it's always good to kind of use a bit of masking tape to put in the corners just to keep it all in place. Okay, so the title block we're going to be drawing was actually in the slides, and you should have it in your notes as well. Again, for this one we're going to be using just two different types of pencils. So we have a H pencil, which we're going to use for drawing the objects, but that'll be later on when we're actually drawing in the title block. But for the title block itself, we're going to be using a HB pencil. So again, just slightly different shade. So our title block is going to be 10 millimeters in from the edge of the page. And then we're going to have the actual box over here, that's the border is going to be in 10 millimeters from the edge of the page. Then the actual block is going to be down here, and it's going to have title, names, checked by, etc. So what we'll do, first of all, we'll start with the border. So again, it's going to be 10 millimeters in, so a few different ways again, whatever way you fancy yourself. So I'm just going to get my ruler, and we can use this ruler here that's attached to the board, or your T-square if you're using a T-square to draw across. So I'm just going to mark down 10 mil, and then I'll just do a few. Again, this is a dark shade pencil, so if you're worried about maybe making a mistake, maybe start with a lighter shade, or just go very lightly with this one. And again, we can always just rub it out when we're finished, these little marks. So it's about 10 mil there. Let me fill it in. My masking tape is in the way here. It's okay. We're not looking for absolute perfection here. It's possibly your first week doing this, so don't spend ages trying to get everything down to the fraction of a millimeter perfect. Just practice getting done. You're going to be drawing a lot of title blocks this year. So again, it's the first one. So again, if you have a T-square, use your T-square. Just put the T-square going across to get a nice straight line. So I'm going to be using this guy here. So just lining it up. And again, it's important to make sure your page is straight. I think mine is more or less straight. Again, if it's slightly off, I won't say anything this week. So okay, that's our top border. Kind of see actually my page obviously wasn't 100% straight because it's slightly bigger on this side, but we'll continue. Again, this week's exercise, you're not being marked on them, it's just a practice one, so don't worry if it's not perfect. So we'll do the side border now, so it's going to be a 10 mil. So again, there's going to be a few little dots here that we can join the lines. Not sure how long this video will take. It could be a few minutes, it could be a quick one, it could be a short one, depending on how quick I am. So now I'm going to do the bottom border. Just going to measure it up. So what I'm finding a point that's 10 mil from the bottom here, and 10 mil from the side, and just marking that corner point, so that's going to be my starting point on the line. Then just one in the middle. And now this thing here holding the page in place is in the way, so I'm going to have to move that so we get most of it in. So again, line up the dots. So we'll try that in a second. I'm just going to take this off because I'm getting my actual ruler. Line up the two corners. same here. We're missing the corner point down here, but I'll fix that. I'll fix that at the end. So okay, so here we have our border. So again, it's 10 mil from the edges of the page. Not 100% straight, but when you get a bit more practice, you'll be able to do this a bit quicker and a bit straighter. You can see that I got my dots from when I was actually using the marker. Well, you might be able to see them, but what you can just do at the end is just get your eraser and get rid of them, tidy them up. Okay, so next we're going to draw the actual title block, which is going to be storing the information in the drawing. So it's going to be 150 mil out, and it is 10, 20, okay, so 10 mil, 10 mil and 15 mil up, so okay, so 35 mil high. And clip this guy back on, put it out of the way for the moment. So little ruler I got in my math set is exactly 15 centimeters, so 150 mil, so that'll make this a bit easier. So I'll just kind of get the end of it. So the end of it's going to be roughly there, well, it's exactly there I should say. And we're going to go 10, 20, 35 up. So again, just lining up with the end of the title block. So that's 35 mil. So we can go straight across. Actually, I'll use this guy here so we know it is going to be straight. Again, you could be using your T-square for this bit. So again, on your notes you'll be able to see that the title block, you can't, it's a bit light seen here, but you can see the title block is going to be 150 across like this. So the whole top bit of it is going to be where we're going to put in the title of the drawing, and then it's going to be divided into 4 squares down the bottom down here for different information. So the top square is going to be 15 mil, and then it's going to be 10 mil for each of the other ones. So I'm just going to mark those out. You can just put your ruler here. So top one is going to be 15 millimeters, and then 10 and 10. So I'll just do one in the middle again so we can line them up. So 15, 10. So bring down again your this ruler or your T-square, whichever you're using. Go across. So line the ruler again and go across. So now we have the main part of our title block. So again, these, it's kind of 3 different lines here. So, but actually, when we go right in the very center of this, we're going to draw a line. So it's going to divide these here into 4 sections. So we know that's 150 mil wide. So the center point is going to be 75. So just mark the center point, and then straight down. There we go. We have our completed title block, and that took me not that long, 8 minutes. I'm sure we could probably do it a bit quicker. So again, next part of it is actually going to put in some text. So this is here, we're going to have title information here, and then it's going to be drawn by, checked by, scale and date. So the next video will actually show us putting in all that text. Okay, so now we're going to put in the text here. So what I might do is actually zoom in a bit so you can kind of focus on the actual title block itself. Actually, I'll pause that. Okay, so next what we're going to do is put in the grid lines. So we're going to actually put in the text. So it's going to be the title, the drawing is going to be in this one here, then drawn by, checked by, the date and the scale. Again, when you're putting in text, there's actually a little exercise I'll get you to do to practice text, so you can do that before you do this. Now text has to be nice and straight and eligible, so for hand drawings we're going to keep everything in capital letters, and to make sure everything is perfectly straight across the line, we're going to make sure that we're going to draw grid lines to make sure everything is perfectly straight. So sometimes when people are trying to write freehanded, they can kind of start going looping down or up and curving it, so it's good to use grid lines as a way. So again, you can just use your pencil. So what I'm going to do is, the text in the title here is going to be 8 millimeters high. So I'm just going to judge it by eye for the moment. So I'm going to line it up with the center, and presume it's going to be keep the text relatively centered. So again, what I'm going to do is going to draw a very, very faint line. Again, probably best to do this in the lighter shade, so you can just about see this. I'm going to get my ruler. If I can find it, of course. Underneath. Okay, so the drawing here is going to be 8 millimeters. So it's going to be roughly there. Again, use this ruler or your T-square to draw a very light guideline. It's probably a bit too heavy, but should be okay for now. So you can kind of just about see these guidelines here. My dot there is probably too big. We can rub that out afterwards. Okay, I'll do the guidelines first anyway. So it's 8 millimeters here, the text height. In all 4 of these, the text height is going to be 6 millimeters. So again, I'm going to go down. Just measure, have a look, and see where 6 millimeters will fit. So roughly get it centered. So text is going to be about that high there. So I can use these grid lines again. I can use my T-square and my drawing or the drawing ruler to go straight across because it's the same height text the whole way across. Again, nice and light, just for the practice. And when you get good at this, you might not have to use the guidelines, but when you're starting off, I'd recommend using the guidelines. Again, you can use an eraser to try and tidy it up if you want to, but if the guidelines are still a bit visible on the text, don't worry about it for now. So it's going to be roughly, here's going to be the guideline for the bottom. Again, just measure the 6 mil down. So, there. Okay, so now we have our guidelines for all the text we're going to put in. Again, the text is very important. People might be thinking, why am I practicing writing letters? Again, if you're submitting these on site, well, back in the day you would have been submitting hand drawings on site, making sure the writing is perfectly legible and clear is very important. You don't want someone to misunderstand a number or a letter, because then that'll cause confusion. So the first one up here is going to be title, and again, title is all the text here is going to be in capital letters. So you can kind of go on the lines if you want, but generally as long as you kind of keep the text within the guidelines, that's the main thing. So you could move in a little bit, so just kind of roughly keep it here. So I'm going to actually have a dot down here I made as a guideline, so I'll actually just make use of that. So T, title, and now 2 dots. Next one down here is going to be drawn by. Again, it's going to be a bit smaller, so there's not much space in this one, but again, when you're putting in your name for drawn by, it's actually only your initials you're going to use, so don't worry about running out of space. Okay, for me it's going to be DT for David Thompson. Checked by, again it's all within the guidelines. And all capital letters. Sometimes I have a habit of starting off in capital letters and then without thinking I have a small letter, lowercase letter in the middle of it, so just be aware, unless that's just me. Okay, checked by in this case is going to be DT, but for your drawings the checked by will always be DT, so the only difference is going to be who drew it. And the date, format we're going to use is going to be month, so it's going to be the day. So I'll just type in the letters, or write in the letters for now. So day, month, and year. I'm actually going to use the 4 letters for the year. So for the day, it'll be like, if it's the 1st of January 2020, so it'll be 01 for the day. The month will be again 01 depending on what it is, in the year it'll be 2020 for 2020. And people recommend, because it's the year 2020, to put in the full year, because if you just put in 20, then technically someone come back and add on a 17 or 18 at the end of it, and again cause a bit of confusion. And the scale, going to be here, and this will be, again, whatever drawing it is. I think in the instructions you're going to be using a set scale, so there's different ways you can do this. I'll write it down in the exercise sheet, but sometimes if you got the scales actually written on the sheet itself underneath different drawings, if you got different ones, you can put in here as above, or you can actually write in the individual scales in the order that they appear. So for this example, I'll just put a number in so we can see. So that's 1 is to 10. This thing is getting in the way, but sure, we're okay. And the title, I can't remember what we're going to call the exercise 1 title, so I'll just go with this. Might be something wrong or something different on your exercise instructions, but exercise 1, we're going to call this. So there we have our title block. Not the neatest thing in the world, but it's basic as all the information. If you can reproduce something like this for the exercise, I'll be perfectly happy. I'd really like you to leave your guidelines in, just so I can see that you actually did them. Again, my letters are a bit messy. You can kind of type a few little things if you want. Any extra lines, you can rub out the extra ones that aren't needed in the drawing, but you can leave the guidelines that are actually where the text actually is. Again, it'll just show me that you actually used the guidelines in the first place. This is the eraser I got with the mathematical square, but probably best to pick up a bigger one, because it won't last long. If you're like me, you're going to be using it a lot. Again, I don't want you to be absolutely perfectionist in this the first week, but a bit of practice. So there we have our title block, and we did our border. So this is going to be exercise 1. Hope you found it useful, and yes, next one will be exercise 2.